I recently tested 4 different Disney dining alert tools, and the results made me switch the service I'll be using for my own trips. Here's how it went. Hi, I'm Shannon Albert from WDW Prep School.com, and today I'm here to talk to you about dining alert services. These tools have popped up in the last 4 to 5 years. The basic gist is you can't get a dining reservation on your own, or you don't want to keep checking, so you sign up for an alert tool that will let you know when an opening that matches your date, your restaurant, your group size comes up, and then you can go and snag it. There are services, at least one or two that I know of, that will actually book reservations and you can buy the reservations from them. However, I will not be discussing that kind of service because I've seen those disappear pretty quickly because they seem to be in violation of some Disney rules. I am not affiliated with any of the companies I'll be talking about today. I'm just testing them out. So to get this test started, I decided to look at my upcoming trip and see what was not available and figure out where it could fit into our plans. That list includes Homecoming, Space 220 Lounge, Beacon Barrel, and Cake Bake Shop. Those were the 4 that were completely unavailable when I started this test. I decided to try for Homecoming on Friday, November 7th for dinner, Space 220 Lounge on Sunday, November 9th for dinner, Beacon Barrel Saturday, November 8th for lunch, and Cake Bake Shop, which I had a couple of different times for, either Monday, November 10th in the evening or breakfast and lunch on Saturday, November 8th. Either of those would work for us. So I set up all the alerts with all of the different services. I started it on October 24th and it lasted for 10 days. The 4 different alert companies that we will be looking at are MouseDining, MouseWatcher, Stakeout, and Thrill Data. These are the 4 I've heard the most about. So I decided that it made most sense to test them. Price-wise, they vary quite a bit across the board. MouseDining is free for up to 6 alerts, but at that level, they only will send emails and not texts. After that, it is $9 a month, and there is an annual plan available. MouseWatcher is $5 if you just want one alert, or they have monthly plans that start at $19 a month and go up from there. Stakeout is an app, while the other 3 are websites. Stakeout is an app. With this app, you get 1 alert free. And then after that is a monthly plan that starts at $9.99 a month. Finally is Thrill Data, which is completely free. Now let's compare the different alert types because this can be huge when you're trying to snag a reservation, because if you don't get alerts through the method that works the best for you, then you may not see the alert. MouseDining will do text and email, and one thing that is unique about it is that they will allow up to 5 emails and 3 text numbers. So if you're traveling with a group and multiple people are going to be trying to snag dining reservations, it can be super helpful to have multiple options available here. MouseWatcher will allow you to get alerts by text and email, up to 1 of each, 1 email, 1 text. Stakeout is text and push notifications. Because it's an app, they will send push notifications. They do not email. And finally, Thrill Data, which is text and email. Let's move on to the alert setup. This is a little bit confusing to explain, but basically every service, when you go in to set up the alerts, has a different criteria that they consider an alert. For instance, I said that Cake Bake Shop, I was flexible on a couple of different days and a couple of different meals. With some services, that would be 3 separate alerts. And with other services, it's just 1. They count each restaurant as 1, but other places will count each meal each day as a separate one. And if you have maximum number of alerts with these services, then this matters. So just briefly, let's talk about how it works. With MouseDining, each meal is a completely different alert. With MouseWatcher, each location is 1 alert. So in the case of Cake Bake Shop, it would only count as 1 alert, even though I had multiple days and meal times that I was considering. At Stakeout, each location is 1 alert. And at Thrill Data, each alert can span multiple days. Thrill Data is free, so the number of alerts matters a lot less there, but it is nice that you can just kind of put in a date range and say, okay, I'm open to this place any day of my trip, and it just requires you to set it up once. Now let's move on to the types of alerts that they will send you, because we're talking mostly about Disney World dining here, but that is not all that they do. So MouseDining has both Disney World dining and activities. MouseWatcher does a lot of different places: Disney World, Disneyland, Aulani, Disneyland Paris, Hong Kong Disneyland. They have activities, dining, lots of options there. Stakeout is Disney World and Disneyland, and it's dining and activities. And then finally, Thrill Data is Disney World Dining. The last thing that we want to look at with these services is, do they send a link in the alert that they will email you, text you, etc.? This is super important because if you get an alert that doesn't have a link, it can take a lot more time to book that reservation. So the first three, MouseDining, MouseWatcher, and Stakeout, they all send links in their alerts, in their texts, in their emails, etc. However, Thrill Data does not. So that's important to know before you decide on which service you're going to rely on. So now that we got the basics of all the services laid out, I went ahead and set up all the alerts that I described at the beginning of the video in all of these different systems, and I let them run for 10 days. Even after I was able to snag the reservation that I needed, I let them keep going because I just wanted to see how many alerts I could get from each service, because I wanted to see how they would vary. So the results were that from Thrill Data, I got 6 alerts. From MouseDining, I got 56 alerts, Stakeout 63, and MouseWatcher 82. So obviously very different results. I want to talk a little bit more about the Thrill Data one in a second. Most of those were for Beacon Barrel. So I had set up Beacon Barrel because at the time it was sold out. However, shortly after I set up the alerts, it appears that they dropped a lot of availability, especially for parties of 2, which is super common there. I think they literally just throw random chairs at tables and they say, we've got more availability. So almost all the alerts that I got were for Beacon Barrel. However, Thrill Data only sent 1 for Beacon Barrel. So it makes me think that they were having a technical glitch because they did come through on the other ones. But since most of the services, most of the alerts they sent were Beacon Barrel, I think that maybe having a glitch with Thrill Data really skewed the numbers there. But anyway, most of these were Beacon Barrel. However, let's talk about the other ones because they are much more difficult to get, and I got a lot fewer notifications for them. Starting with Cake Bake Shop, where I got 13 total alerts from all the different services for these reservations. Remember, I had a couple different meals and days here. The results are that I got 2 alerts for Cake Bake Shop from MouseDining. I got 3 from Thrill Data, 3 from Stakeout, and 5 from MouseWatcher. And in the end, I was able to snag 1 via MouseWatcher. Next up is Homecoming, which is, for some reason, the most difficult. It didn't used to be so difficult, but it definitely is now. I got a total of 5 alerts for this one, 0 from MouseDining, 1 from Stakeout, 1 from Thrill Data, and 3 from MouseWatcher. In the end, I was able to book this one as well, again from MouseWatcher. And the last one to mention is Space 220 Lounge. We're not going to the restaurant, just the lounge. And I got 7 alerts for this one, 0 from MouseDining, 1 from Thrill Data, 3 from Stakeout, and 3 from MouseWatcher. And again, I was able to book this one. So based on these results, I think that it is fair to draw some conclusions. I certainly have. And there appears to be some pros and cons of all of these different services. So let's start with MouseDining. So MouseDining pros are that it is affordable. It's not the most expensive one on the list. And they do give you some free ones up to 6 alerts, although it's only email. So you have to be okay with getting only email as opposed to text. One thing I love about MouseDining is that they do allow up to 5 emails and 3 text numbers so that you can share it. And because I travel with somebody else on my team all the time, we can both snag reservations. It's the only one on the list that allows that. However, on the downside with MouseDining, they did not get me any of the difficult reservations that I had on this list. And in some cases, they sent no alerts for the things that I had set up. And so that felt like a bit of a disappointment because I've been using them for so long, and it wasn't the service that ended up getting me the reservation. Let's move on to MouseWatcher. Now, the pros of MouseWatcher are that it is the most effective, it appears. I got the most alerts from there, and I got most of my dining reservations through the link sent by MouseWatcher. Another pro is that if you just want 1 or 2 alerts, it's very accessible because it's $5 an alert. So you don't have to commit to a whole monthly plan if what you're seeking is just one thing. I also really like that their alert setup is each location is 1 alert. So for instance, in the example of cake bake shop for me where I had the multiple days and multiple meals, it would only count as one alert if I wanted to look for it over a span of days or meal types. So I really like that for $5, I could set up one of those and that it would cover a lot of different days or meals. I also really like that they cover a lot of different Disney properties, including Disneyland, Alani, etc. It was the only one I came across that did all the different properties. And so it really covers a lot of things. The only downside really with MouseWatcher seems to be that the monthly plans can be quite expensive. So if you do want volume, you're going to have to pay because the plans go up to over $100 per month, but that really only impacts people that are doing high volume. I still find it very accessible for people that just need one or two. Now let's talk about the pros and cons of Stakeout. On the pro side, you get one alert free, which is nice. And the monthly plans, if you do have to pay, are pretty accessible, starting at $9.99 a month, which is pretty affordable to most people. I also do like that each location is just one alert in the same way that it is for MouseWatcher. However, the biggest downside was that they just didn't alert me in time to get the reservations that I wanted, and I was able to book it with other services first. However, it performed fine, I would say in the middle of the pack for this test. And finally, let's talk about Thrill Data. So the biggest pro of Thrill Data is that it is completely free. It's hard to compete with free. That is a super low entry point. But I will say that the biggest downside that I found, two of them, one is the alerts not having the link in it is a huge downside. I'm not sure why they don't do this because it seems like it'd be a simple thing to add, but I lost a lot of time. So even when I did get an alert from them, I wasn't able to quickly book the reservation in time because I had to then go and search for the restaurant, the day, the meal, etc. And by that time, somebody else had already snagged it, probably because they clicked on a link that was available in a different alert tool. I also did have some issues getting the quantity of alerts that I did from the other services, but that seems to be specific to Beacon Barrel. I'm not sure. And for that reason, I wouldn't rely on it for getting something I really wanted for my trip. So in the end, I am changing to be a MouseWatcher user. It was very effective. And, we travel for work purposes, and sometimes we need things that are very difficult to get into. And I need to be able to rely on whatever service I'm paying for. So I plan to use MouseWatcher from now on. I am curious, have you tried other services? Have you tried these services and had good experiences or bad experiences? I would love to hear it in the comments. If you are interested in watching another video, may I suggest this one? Thanks for watching.